Hello everybody, welcome once again to another installment of A Rebel Without Applause, coming to you not from my television studio apartment in the Wood of the Holly, which overlooks the COVID-addled post-apocalyptic paradise known as the Land of Law, but instead I'm in a little nook far from the Wood of the Holly. I'm Streamside, if you can't tell already, on the west fork of the San Gabriel River, which winds its way from a reservoir and is tucked back into the rim of mountains that surround Los Angeles. And if you take the time to come back in these parts, it's a little bit of a Shangri-La. There's running rivers with trout, there's pine trees, veritable cornucopia of vegetation and riparian life right here on a streamside, only an hour from the Wood of the Holly. And I'm sitting here, I've caught a couple trout here today, nothing bigger than my hand, I can say that, but nonetheless, they were salmonoids, and they saw my fly, they took it, and I retrieved them and set them free again. So I'm in this beautiful streamside right here in like I said, the West Fork of the San Gabriel River. And sitting beside me is a fellow fly fisherman, a brother of the fly. He's also, he's from the Wood of the Holly. He's actually Hollywood adjacent from Los Feliz. And he's a writer, and he writes about fly fishing. And his name is Chris Wright. How are you, Chris?
Doing good. I'm having a good time. This is a beautiful stream to be seeing.
Yes. Now, if he sounds distant, that's because we're obeying the laws of social distancing. We've distanced ourselves from the whole city of Los Angeles, but we're still maintaining a cautionary distance between the two of us. So tell me about yourself, Chris. You're a writer of nature stories, and is it giving you a chance to travel? And where have you fly fished?
Yeah, I've fly fished. This is pretty new for me. I'm from Pennsylvania originally, and I fished a lot there, so I count this as new. I've fished up into the Cloud River in Northern California last year, working on a story for Outside Magazine. And where else have I fished? I fished a couple places around the country a couple years ago when I went around the country in a van with my fiance for a couple months.
Okay, so is fly fishing your main sort of area of exploration, at least from a literary standpoint?
It's one of them. Yeah, I write nonfiction about a lot of different stuff, just long-form stories about interesting people, places, and things. But I love fly fishing, so I've found some interesting stories in fly fishing. So
you fished those little freestone limestone creeks of Pennsylvania. I saw a documentary not too long ago about a famous fly fisherman who helped restore a lot of the creeks and streams of Pennsylvania. He's kind of a legend. I wish I could remember the name of the guy, but it was...
The East Coaster that comes to mind is Lefty Kreh for me, but that was he was more saltwater stuff, so it might not have been. He was a wild guy.
Lefty Kreh was one of the legendary fly fishermen. Well, actually, the cradle of fly fishing in America is the Beaverkill River. Are you familiar with that?
I'm familiar with it. I haven't fished it, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a beautiful stream that winds its way out of the Catskills just outside of New York City, about 2 hours. That's where I started fly fishing, Lefty Kreh, and that's really where the sport found its first champions, not only as fishermen, but also where the writers began to write about it. And I guess probably the most famous literary exploration of fly fishing would be Hemingway's Nick Adams stories. Are you familiar with those?
Yeah, I love that. They're in my backpack.
They're in your backpack?
No, I'm cliche. I'm trite. I love those stories. Yeah. And I fished, in fact, when I was in Michigan, we went to the Upper Peninsula, and I fished is a Two-Hearted River, which is one of my favorite sets.
What's the name of that river?
The Two-Hearted River. Okay. There's two Nick Adams stories called The Two-Hearted River Part 1, Part 2. And I fished it. It was awesome. We got lost in the Upper Peninsula trying to find it, me and my fiance, and fished it in the dusk, caught a little 10-inch brown trout. It was amazing. And then came to find out, did a little research afterwards, and came to find out that he actually had named the river in the story the Two-Hearted River because he loved the name of that river, but it's really based in a different place.
Well, you know what they say in the world of literature is print the legend, not the truth, and it'll take you closer to the truth than the truth. That's just the way it is. So, and where'd you go to school? Where'd you grow up?
I went to Penn State in the middle of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Big old football school.
Big old football school with a little bit of pedophilia mixed into the
Especially when I got into journalism, because I worked for the student newspaper when that all broke.
Did you cover the whole thing?
I helped. Yeah, I helped. I was a senior, but I had started late. It was my first year, so I was kind of the new guy. But they liked me, and I helped several editors and older writers report stories. I almost got arrested.
You did?
Yeah.
For what?
I asked a riot cop during the big protest. Burned a couple cars and stuff.
These were protests about the sexual stuff that went down?
It was the college kids. They when they fired Joe Paterno on a Friday night at 9 p.m. And these college kids who were all very upset about this happening and didn't think Joe Paterno had anything to do with it, and were drunk, went out in the streets and caused mayhem and fought with riot police, and it was pretty violent as far as college riots.
Well, it's not unusual where you have enshrined institutions with very, concentrated power and almost a form of idolatry at the top, that becomes a place where corruption can grow. I mean, we've seen it in the Catholic Church. We've seen it in a lot of these kind of ivory tower institutions. Why would Penn State in football be any different?
I'm frankly amazed that there's not more coming out from other big football schools. I mean, there's so much power and money and places for people to hide, it feels like, in those institutions.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. But so yeah, I got my start with that. I got a big rush when a riot cop told me to get my fucking recorder out of his face. Excuse my language. And threatened to arrest me, and I kind of wow. Felt that rush of adrenaline like when you hook a big rainbow trout and thought, oh, I now get to write about this.
And you chose just fly fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a great field. Hopefully, the thing about fly fishing and writing about it is you don't want to write too much because you don't want people to discover these secret, beautiful places that are right under their nose. I mean,
change the name of the river in your story.
Yeah, well, and also I'll never forget when the movie River Runs Through It came out. It was like everybody had to get a fly rod. I mean, I was fly fishing, since... Actually, I started at the Beaverkill River in the Catskills, and I would just go up there to escape New York when I lived there as a young actor. And I saw these people fly fishing, and I go, now that is cool. That could get my attention. I want to do that. And so I got geared up and have been flailing for trout ever since. And when I'm not surfing, I'll find my way to these kind of secret places. Now we're in a little, let's see, I wouldn't call it a bend in the river, a little crooked section. It's there's some rapids up ahead and some fast water, and then it becomes smooth again, and then just below us that's a riffle, and then beyond that a little bit of a pool, and there's trout in here. And there's probably big trout in here too, but not many. I mean, I've caught fish in here. They're hand size, but they're in here nonetheless. They're all over the place. Nobody takes them out. I mean, they just generally get returned. How have you been doing today, fish-wise?
I caught two. I caught one, which was awesome. The first hand-sized fish I've really caught here ever, because they've been minnows before, and it was beautiful rainbow trout. I thought I put the fly on the water, have my indicator up top and my nymph down at the bottom.
Okay. So you're fishing on a nymph style for your...
Yes, basically like a hopper dropper.
Oh, that's...
You have a dry fly on top in case the fish wants to eat up there, but really it's just helping you see if a fish eats the
Right. So you have an indicator, so you can see if there's a little bit of some interest below. If the indicator bobs below the surface, in very all likelihood you have a fish. Have you tried Euro nymphing?
Maybe.
Okay.
I was gonna ask you a question, which was, how did you figure out how to do what you do? Because I think that's always an interesting path.
As a fly fisherman or in my life?
Well, fly fishing. So how did you? It's not easy to catch a fish when you start. Did someone teach you? Did you read a book?
I just got out and failed. It's like I do everything. My life is all about failing my way to mediocrity. So it's just failing, reading, watching. I mean, when I started, there wasn't all this YouTube-y stuff going on. So I just just got to the river, watched, got the gear, read about it. I just enjoyed being out of New York City. We are, in the middle of this massively dangerous contagion, and I don't know if there's a COVID virus little bullet within miles of us. I don't know, but in all likelihood not.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. In New York, yeah.
Is this your first venture out of your cave, basically?
No, on Thursday, I took my fiance out here. That was when I dipped my toes in the water, so to speak, for the first time, and realized it was awesome up here. Because we had been cooped up for a long time, and we had a little bit of good news to celebrate. Because I've lost my a lot of writing gigs lately, and so I got a nice thing figured out for money, and so we came out here to celebrate.
So, tell me your name again. Chris Wright. Is there any place where people can read your stuff?
Yeah, Outside Magazine, Outside Online, their website. I have stories there. You can look me up, or you can follow me on Twitter or on Instagram. I put my stories on there too. But also GQ, hopefully more, and hopefully soon the New Yorker, if we're in a hopeful mood. Okay,
so are you submitting to the New Yorker?
Yeah, I wrote a Talk of the Town, which is like the front of their magazine thing for them. You have to just write it on spec, so they're pretty hard to get. But I heard back from an editor who liked it, so we're waiting on that.
My cousin is on staff at the New Yorker, and he just wrote this big profile about Fauci.
Oh, I read that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What's your cousin's name?
His name is Michael Spector.
That was a great story, and I was, it's nice to read about Fauci right now. That's really cool. I love New Yorker is my favorite publication.
My problem with the New Yorker is that if you make the mistake and subscribe to it, you're behind for the rest of your life. It's just the stories pile up, and it's just like, okay, I can never catch up. My life is totally ruined. I just have to read every day to keep pace with what the New Yorker is publishing. And I find it's a recipe to ruin your life if you're trying to get everything done. It's like trying to watch all the back episodes of Seinfeld or something.
If you could see what my desk and my area next to our bathtub looks like right now, you'd laugh, because I've got like 8 New Yorkers piled up, just trying to get through them. There's too much good shit in there. And it takes a long time, but I like that. That's my thing, and just like you are as a podcaster, I'm sure, I think it takes a lot of time to really get many layers deep on an interesting subject, and so I think they do that. That's what hooks me about them. That's why I still try to keep up. It's just a lot of their stories, you feel like you really understand something.
And the problem with the New Yorker too, and I'm here ripping it, it's too New York centric. But of course, it's called the New Yorker, so I they're entitled to that prejudice.
I'm trying to write some LA stories, so we'll see.
Well, New York is a suburb of LA. Just look at the map.
Don't tell them that.
I know, it's true. I got in my car. Well, no, when I graduated college, I went to NYU Film School. And then I did that for a year. Then I started studying acting and working in the theater and getting my first jobs. And then I drifted into stand-up comedy, which was a bottomless pit out of which I've yet to climb. The good news is now that all the nightclubs in the world are closed, so I don't feel so bad about not being booked, because nobody's booked, it's fine. It's like, misery loves company. I've got so much company, it actually feels good. It's not miserable.
Yeah. Yep, I feel that way too.
Yeah, so... Yeah, that's my story. And then I came here, I grew up in LA, and I live a life aquatic, and that includes surfing and paddling and swimming and fly fishing too when I get a chance. And I got these new wading boots. You actually have the same kind with a little knob on them, these Sims, and I'm all stoked on my new gear, and I'm hopeful this little podcast will be somewhat transportive for folks that are still locked down and know that there is a natural world that's waiting for them when things loosen up,
It's beautiful, isn't it? I'm really trying to be a naturalist lately, like to understand the life around me a lot more. I meant to bring my little guide to the California State Flora and Fauna, because I want to look up what all this stuff was. So much life there.
Yeah, I mean, the key to enjoying fly fishing is essentially it's a sport about acute observation of, nature. I mean, riparian life. There's not much of a hatch here right now. They're fishing here, but it's tough going. I'm just happy to be out of my nutshell, I felt a little guilty about it. Like, am I breaking the rules? Am I taking advantage where everybody else is locked down? But this place where we're at is not closed, and I'm not breaking any rules, so I'm happy to be here.
I struggle with the same thing. I think a lot of people, it's good that we feel that way, because that means we're not overrunning all the parks that are busy. And I always tell myself when we came out last week and this week, if it's crowded, if I get the sense that there's like too many people there, I'll turn around and go home. But it's not a problem.
And do you know anybody that's been felled or contracted?
I'm lucky in that I don't know many people. I think I had one friend and his girlfriend, who's also a friend, get really sick in New York. This was back when it was really hard to get tested, which might still be now, I don't know. But so they didn't get tested, but they got very sick and had trouble breathing and all of that stuff. So they're doing fine now, and like I said, everyone else is still doing good.
Well, you're in that survival bracket. You're young, so you got to really screw up to get yourself killed from this. But I'm in the bracket that can very easily find its way underground.
The bracket changes very swiftly.
Yeah, it can change in a heartbeat. So I don't know. Well, Chris, tell me your name again. Chris Wright. This is an impromptu podcast from the banks of the West Fork of the San Gabriel River as it gurgles out of these San Gabriel Mountains. There's still flecks of snow up in the upper elevations here up by Mount Baldy, and there's a reservoir above us that keeps the water relatively constant in terms of its temperature, and it flows all year round. And the trout have been here for a while, and it's a cool hang. So this is just a little short interregnum. Breaks the pattern, but it's as I'm slowly opening the door out of my nutshell of infinite space. By that I mean my television studio apartment, and to re-explore the world that lies just beyond our doorstep. So till next time, folks, namaste, shalom, and aloha, namashaloha.